Hey there everyone, I'm David, the editor of Imaging Resource. We're working on a full review of this, the Nikon Z 35mm f1.2s, but I wanted to give you my first thoughts having used it for the last few weeks. So let's start with why you might want a 35mm f1.2 lens in the first place. The 35mm focal length is a really sweet spot for a lot of types of photography. It's wide enough to work for travel and landscape, even astro, but it's tight enough for portraits, especially if you like a more natural look than a telephoto lens gives you with all of that compression. And it's really great for weddings and architectures and flowers and all kinds of things. For a lot of shooters, 35mm is just one of the focal lengths that you find in a 24-70 lens. But those lenses are usually f2.8 or f4. But as a prime lens, a 35mm f1.4 or f1.8 are very popular choices. f2.8 lets in 2.5 times less light than 1.8, and an f2.8 lens gives you about 5.5 times less light than a 1.2 lens. The ultra-wide aperture creates really super shallow depth of field, which we call bokeh, making the subject pop while melting away the background. And with the excellent eye detect autofocus and the latest Z cameras, like the Nikon Z6 III we used to test this lens, you can now focus on an eye like this and have the background look like this. Nikon's wide aperture lenses are known for their great bokeh, and the f1.2's background defocus is some of the best I've seen in any lens. But, and this is a big but, it's also heavy and it's one of the most expensive lenses in its class. So I guess the question is, why is this lens so expensive? So let me break that down. Okay, so let's start with the optical design. There are 17 elements in 15 groups with 4 extra low dispersion elements and 4 aspherical elements. In real world shooting, it means that there's incredible sharpness from edge to edge with minimal chromatic aberration or distortion. And thanks to all those lens elements, even wide open at f1.2, this lens gives you stunning clarity. And this lens uses dual stepping motors, so 2 motors are moving the lenses inside of here to do focus. Both of these motors are nearly silent. I cannot hear this lens when it's working. But the other side of having 2 motors is that it sort of needs to have 2 motors because the gigantic glass inside of here needs a lot of force to move it back and forth. So one part of the size equation here is the big powerful lenses inside. The other side of the equation is the motors that are required to drive those big pieces of glass. This lens is also designed for pro shooting, so it's fully sealed against dust and moisture, and it's really ready for tough conditions. You probably don't want to get sand in the parts here, and you probably don't want to stay outside in a tornado. The lens also has 2 function buttons, a control ring and a focus ring, all of which can be programmed to do something besides their original function. But once you get it dialed in, it makes shooting really customized. Alright, let's talk about some of the drawbacks. The first is in handling. The lens is 2.3 pounds, which is about 1,000 grams. This is a heavy lens. So to put it into perspective, at more than 1,000 grams, according to the internet, that's the weight of a wild rabbit. So if you're shooting handheld for long periods of time, maybe you're a wedding photographer or portrait shooter, you're going to start to feel the weight. So it's 4 inches or 90mm at the widest point, and it's 150mm or about 6 inches long without the lens hood. Lens hood adds about another inch to inch and a half. At around $2,800, that's one of the most expensive 35mm lenses out there. You're getting top tier image quality, but it's a serious investment. For a wedding or a portrait photographer, this is definitely a lens that could pay itself back pretty quickly. But for a casual shooter, an f1.8 is probably a better deal in both terms of price and weight. But if you absolutely need top tier image quality, you will not be disappointed with this lens. So if you're really on the fence, the Nikon Z 35mm f1.8s is still an excellent choice at a fraction of the cost. Okay, so the final question is, should you buy the Nikon Z 35mm f1.2s? If you're a pro or an enthusiast who wants the best 35mm that Nikon has ever made, yes, I think it's the best one they have ever made. It's definitely worth it. Okay, so let us know in the comments below, would you buy this lens, or is it just too much money or too much weight? Do you have a 35mm? And if you do, let me know if you have a 1.4, a 1.8, a 2.8, or something else. When the full review of this lens is finished, we'll have that in the description below. And we'd love if you can like or subscribe. So from Imaging Resource, I'm David, and I'll see you next time.